Rachel, thank you so much for coming to chat with me today. I have been noticing on your social medias pictures of you and a wedding. Tell me more.
Yeah. So yeah, I got married. It was actually this time last year. We had a second big wedding party recently, which is all the pictures that you've seen. Just completely milked it, basically, to have as many celebrations as possible. And it was the most amazing day of my life, really. It was just so beautiful.
Beautiful. So the photos looked amazing. I was so excited for you. So let's take people back a moment. You know, if you think back sort of 2-ish years ago, before you did Claim Your Crown with me. And of course, the new version of Claim Your Crown is called Soul Aligned Love, but essentially under the hood, it's the same thing, just with a more love-focused direction. What were the sort of struggles you were experiencing in your relationship, and sort of where were you in yourself?
I think for me, my healing journey really started a few years before that, probably about 5 years ago. I came from a place where I'd get into these really dysfunctional patterns with people, and I was just repeating a cycle endlessly, which I finally kind of understood from a place of pain. That I suddenly realized, I remember my brother saying to me, you know, this is the second time that you've told me you've been with a narcissist. Why don't you look at what is in you that is making you repeat the cycle? And when he said that, I was furious. I couldn't believe, you know. But then when I calmed down, I realized that actually he had a point. I had the power to heal it. And when I came to Claim Your Crown, as a result of what I'd been doing already, I'd always kind of jump from one relationship to the next. In order to sort of regroup, I spent about 1.5 years by myself, really looking within, doing a little bit of that kind of energetic healing work that you do in Claim Your Crown, and trying to start to explore where that came from in my life. When was the first time that I felt that pain, and what was it all about? And it was an incredible journey. And I started to understand that actually it was a pain that, you know, I'd felt in my childhood, and I realized that that was just what I was doing in my relationships.
Felt like you were replicating patterns from like your very early childhood in your relationship.
Absolutely, yes. And I started to understand that that's where triggers come from, and that's what triggers are. And that's what was happening to me when I would get into that state of feeling really activated, and I'd feel powerful triggers in my gut. And so I started to understand that that was my body giving me a signal that you know, this is an opportunity to learn something. During that process, my relationship with Bruno, who's my husband, started to blossom into something more than friendship. And I've believed really strongly that all of my work was meant to bring me here. It's been an extraordinary journey with Bruno, because I met him in my 20s, and we always had a really, really strong energetic attraction and a connection. But I just I wasn't ready for that. I didn't understand what that was, and I know it wouldn't have worked then. And I made a decision then that I really wanted him in my life, so I wasn't going to do anything with him.
Right.
Sexually. So we became and remained really, really close, loving friends. And we lived in different places. He is Brazilian, and he lived in Brazil for a few years, and then he went to Madrid.
So at some point you were in the UK and he was in Madrid?
In Madrid, yes. So things started to, suddenly we were both single at the same time. I'd been doing all this kind of healing journey, and I was on that path,
Yeah.
and things started to blossom between us. But we were in a long distance relationship, and it was through COVID, through the pandemic as well, that just exploded just after we
You couldn't
got together.
travel during that period
Yeah,
to see each other. So
yeah, yeah.
wow, that really is long distance then,
It
isn't
was
it?
extraordinary. I mean, it was a huge adventure and an extraordinary journey. But that's when I saw you were doing Claim Your Crown. But he was in a very different place and had just come out of quite a toxic marriage and needed time to heal. So I knew I had to wait and let him do that and slow down. And that is completely against every bone in my body. I'm not a patient person at all, and I always move at 100 miles an hour, and I was finding the long distance really difficult. And I noticed things like, if he hadn't replied to my text message, I'd get really anxious and triggered, and that was something which I brought to, that was where I was when I came into Claim Your Crown.
Just in this place where you're like, I want this relationship to work, but my triggers are threatening for me to derail it.
Totally, 100%. Yeah.
And so Claim Your Crown helped you in what way with that?
So it was amazing. So what it helped do was develop understanding when I become activated and triggered, what that's about, how to cope with it, how to go within, and how to alchemize and transform it so that trigger goes and something extraordinary happens, and it's an energetic experience. So something in the energy in your body that you've been carrying all this time transforms and is released. So that it's not to say I never get triggered, but it happens way less, way less. I'm just aware that there's that sort of slightly mad, silly voice that's happened in my head, and I just ignore it and don't get carried into that narrative, which was what would happen to me before when I got triggered. So what I learned with Claim Your Crown that's so extraordinary is my head would then start telling me lies. But in that state, I completely believed them. They seemed so real. And then I would start treating the other person as if the lies were true. And that would cause real issues. Okay.
That leads me to a great question there. So if you were to imagine, if you had not done all the work that you've done with Claim Your Crown, and I know you were in other programs too, but if you had not done all this work, and if your triggers had still been telling you those lies and viscerally taking over your body and like really engulfing your experience, do you think it would be possible to still be in the relationship that you have with Bruno? And if so, you know, how would it be?
So no, I honestly think no. Well, I honestly believe no, it wouldn't have worked.
Right.
I can see that really clearly. I would have driven him mad, and he's somebody that needs his own space, and especially because of where he was, he needed that respect to be able to heal, and it was really the way that I used to behave. I can now see what it would have violated so many boundaries that were really important to him, that it wouldn't have worked. I would have driven him away, which is amazing.
I so resonate with that. Thank you for being so open and honest, because I also have been there in the past in relationships. So am I right in thinking your attachment style is more on the anxious side?
Yes. Yeah.
I also used to have this pattern where I would want to be in contact like all of the time, and my triggers would come up, and then, as you say, like my triggers would be telling me a different reality from the one that was actually in front of my eyes, but I believed it so strongly that I would then start acting from that place and blaming the other person. And then that other person started to feel attacked, and so many of my partners reflected back to me that being in relationship with me was really hard work. And I was like, but I just don't get it. And then, of course, you know, you start to do this deep work, like we teach in Claim Your Crown. And then you're like, oh, wait, now I get it. Now I see why this is so much hard work for the other person. Now I see why actually I'm distorting reality to fit my old narrative, which actually, when we're in a empowered place in our mind, we can see isn't true, right?
Yes.
So yeah, let's fast forward to now, like to where are you now? You know, you have done all this amazing work. You know, you really threw yourself in there. I see how much you wanted to change your patterns, how you saw that these patterns were not serving your highest good, and you knew deep down that you were like, hang on, I deserve a better experience than this, right? I deserve a love that's greater than what I'm currently able to create with the way that my triggers are causing me to show up. How did you go from not being able to see each other through COVID, the distance, you feeling like, this is so hard, I need to give this man space, to obviously at some point getting engaged, to living together, to now being fully married, everything?
Yeah, so it's been an amazing journey, really, because I was able to just let go and let it evolve without trying to force and kind of grab and grasp, but just to sit back and be in my power, like you've been talking about. So actually, the shift in me was that hole was filled. So I feel whole. So I was showing up, and I do show up as a whole person, not expecting my partner to fulfill and fill me up in a way that I can't do for myself. And that my experience has been that that then magnetizes what I want to me, rather than having to grasp and search. And that shift allowed me to be patient enough to ride the journey. There were moments where I didn't think it was going to work. You know, it was not easy to be long distance and to feel that strong connection with somebody. But gradually, we spent more time together. I knew early that I would marry this person, which was so exciting and special for me because of how I always felt about marriage. I thought marriage was a load of shit, to be honest. I just didn't. I thought it was, you know, I don't want another person to have half all my stuff. That was my state of mind of what I thought it was. I wanted to be free. And I just didn't understand how it could feel that actually being with the right person for me and having such a beautiful connection and showing up I feel like I show up as a grown-up, really, rather than a wounded child, which is what I always did before, meant that I wanted to commit to him on every level there is to commit to. So that felt so special, and seeing him kind of grow and reach that place as well was really beautiful. But there were moments where I really doubted myself, of thinking maybe this isn't what I thought it was. Maybe it's not going to evolve in that way. But seeing that it has evolved in that way has been just amazing.
You were able to hold your power and stay really grounded in those moments of like not being certain, and allow it to play out its natural course.
Yes, completely.
Rather than maybe prematurely ending it, or, you know, saying that it was you couldn't cope with the instability.
Yes, completely. Which again, I would have done many times, you know, the old me without that work completely.
That's such a huge transformation, Rachel. That's massive, like amazing. Wow.
It's beautiful. And now we've been living together for over a year, and I'm the happiest I've ever been. I really am. And it's not to say that it hasn't been without difficulty. You know, it's real life. And
no relationship is without challenges.
And you know, he moved country to be here. But again, having gone through those difficult moments and got through it, it's brought us closer together than ever.
Yeah.
And I feel more and more stable the longer and the more challenges that we overcome, which is again nothing I've ever had before. I didn't have that feeling in my previous relationships of peace with your partner. It was always a battleground.
Yes. Oh my God, I resonate with that so much. Yeah.
And you know, I just didn't understand that there wasn't another way.
It's hard to put into words, actually, isn't it? But this
Yeah.
sense of calm and safety and stability and trust and yeah, just knowing that actually we're in this together, we're a team, and sure, we're going to hit the odd bump every now and then, but that doesn't mean anything. It's not going to make or break us. Like that.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't mean that then that's it and it's not working. And yeah, it's so true. It's, for me, it's about the trust. It's a real piece of trust, and that's within me and within him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to just rewind very slightly. You said that you were able to stay in your center, stay grounded, and hold space for this man to do his healing work to a place where he was actually ready to move country to come and be with you and marry you. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. The fact that you could actually be in the space of like not knowing the distance, you know, Spain and the UK, and COVID, you know, not even being able to physically be with each other and hold your grounding throughout all of that, stay in your power, stay with your crown on, as we would say, to the point where he was like, yeah, I'm in this, I've done my healing, I'm now ready to move country to come and be with you and to marry you and to set up a life with you.
Yeah, incredible.
Wow.
It is incredible. I feel so lucky. I feel so lucky and so grateful all the time.
Yeah. And you've earned this, you've worked for this, you've done, you know, the personal healing to be able to hold this level of relationship and to, you know, navigate the bumps that do come up in relationship, but without sabotaging yourself, right? You can stay in your power.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what makes it so worthwhile as well. Is it's been hard work. It's been really hard work. But then all of the things worth having are hard work, that and which makes the gifts even greater when they come, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you. There is no Disney fairy tale, but I do talk about happy ever after because I feel like when you get to the place that we are in relationship, you know you've got your person, you know you've worked through so many challenges. There isn't really anything that can come up now that could potentially, you know, derail you. You're like, no, we've done all of that. Now it's a question of let's just build a life together. And that's what I call the happy ever after, you know, that's what I always wanted.
Let's just do life together. Yeah.
What was it like for you participating in a group experience where you were clearing your triggers, clearing what I call shadow, and, you know, being vulnerable in that group space with other women? And how was that for you?
Absolutely amazing. And a privilege, I think. And I loved hearing other people's stories and journeys and being vulnerable myself. I think if you when you're sharing vulnerability, it allows others to be vulnerable too, and breaks down that sort of fear and self-consciousness that we carry. And it's so special when women do it together to support each other. And it's an incredible space, an incredible experience. And it's been actually sort of women in general connecting and supporting each other has been a massive part of my healing, probably the most important, biggest part of my healing, actually. Oh my God, it's so lovely when women support each other. I think it's the most incredible, powerful thing that we can do.
Yeah.
And I really think it's the most important thing that we've got at the moment in kind of general healing the world. I think the feminine energy and the feminine connections the most important thing we've got moving forward.
Yeah, beautiful. I don't know about you, but for me, I found practicing being vulnerable in a group with other people when it feels really edgy, because you're like, oh my God, they're going to see all of my yuck. They're actually going to see like all of the shit I've got going on inside. And then being just met with love and acceptance and encouragement and people believing in me and Natalie, you can do this. Like, it allowed me to show up more vulnerably and more honestly in my relationships. I wonder if you've had a similar experience.
Yes, that's really true. Definitely. Yeah. It's like a safe space for finding your voice. And that's the most powerful, important thing we've got.
Yeah.
Speaking your truth and realizing that's okay. And actually that's really amazing. And the group in itself helps you go deeper than you would have done on your own.
Yeah, because of course communication is such a fundamental part of being in a relationship, right? If we can't have these deep, meaningful, vulnerable conversations with our partner, we're never going to be able to move through the challenging things. I bet you've had loads of those with Bruno over the years.
Yeah. And at the beginning felt like a baby, like a learner driver, and feeling a lot of fear the first time that I would do that and be vulnerable, and then realizing actually I'm met with love and acceptance. It's okay, it's safe to do that. It's not going to be something that's going to get thrown back in my face in an argument, which was my previous pattern. So that's the gift, isn't it? That's the trust and the safety is sharing that space with your partner, where you can both be all of the parts of yourself in a safe space and still be held and loved. And that's the most beautiful thing ever.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where the healing of our trust occurs, where we can learn to be vulnerable in front of another and be met with love and trust that that's going to happen. And equally trust that if for some reason there's a moment where, they don't react in the way that we want them to, that we can then work through that as well. Because I feel like that's also been a huge piece of trust too. So, okay, just wrapping this up then, I would love to hear, would you recommend other people doing a program similar to Claim Your Crown, such as Soul Aligned Love? And if someone was on the fence about joining that program or working with me, what would you love to say to them?
So of course I'd really recommend it. I mean, it's given me the biggest gift of my life. I'm so happy as a result of it. And it is incredibly empowering, and a personal experience that you can take forward. You'll never lose those skills, and you can carry on using them throughout your life. And I suppose, if you're sitting on the fence, I guess I really believe that we're drawn to the things that we're drawn to for a reason. So if it's something which has made you curious and you want to, there's a part of you that's wanting to explore it, then usually that's true for you, and just to go for it. Again, in my experience, the things which stop me from acting on those things is usually fear. And actually the transformation happens when you start to trust and go with it. Go with the scariest option, because then it gives you the biggest growth.
Definitely. Thank you so much for speaking to that and for sharing your time with me today.
It's such a pleasure.
So amazing to hear your journey. It was such a joy to have you in the group anyway, because the way you just threw yourself in, you were in a couple of containers at the same time, and you just threw yourself fully into everything. And I remember at the time you were like, oh my God, I feel so much more connected to myself. And I loved witnessing your transformation. And then of course to see you and Bruno get engaged and then get married and him move over, I have been championing you and celebrating you the whole journey. It's been such a joy to witness.
Thank you so much, Natalie. It's been a joy working with you as well, and I'm sure we'll carry on doing it together.